and welcome back to the vlog. In this week's video I'm going to be talking about the books that I said I was going to read in not last week, the week before the video that I put up of the vlog. I said I was going to try reading one book a week and see how that goes. It's gone very well. So it's one book a week and not necessarily always a novel. That was the goal that I set myself at the start of the year. I thought, okay, we can do one book a week. Let's see how we go. Let's read instead of scrolling, because I don't know about you, but whenever you come off social media having scrolled for half an hour, however long it is, it's not very often that you feel refreshed or uplifted or inspired. I mean, it might happen, but it's not very often. So what I've done is I've taken to reading fiction instead. Reading more fiction than perhaps I would have done had I been scrolling on my phone. And I am delighted to reveal that in the last 12 days, I've read 2 novels. So there's a book a week. But I've also read a range of short stories and a novella too. You might remember in the last video I had Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I had Lady Susan by Jane Austen. I also had At Midnight I Will Steal Your Soul by, now work this out, is it John Llwellen Probert or Probert, but Probert maybe. And I also had The Last Ritual by S.A. Sidor, I think it is. It's hard when you've read all the names and you haven't heard the names, like Hermione in Harry Potter. For years that was Hermione, until I realised it was actually Hermione. But I want to talk about these books today because, well, I've enjoyed all of them, obviously. And I also need to just get my Kindle as well. I also managed to read Terror at Lake Eucha by Jean-Marie Bauhaus, and well, that was it for the Kindle actually. But yeah, I read loads, and the minute I'd finished one book I just picked up another one. And oh, I read Water for Elephants on the Kindle. That's what it was. Water for Elephants, which weirdly isn't there right now. Oh yeah, there it is. I don't know how to work my own Kindle. I only got it in July. But yeah, I've got Terror at Lake Eucha and Water for Elephants that I read last week as well. I didn't expect to finish the library book so soon. The Last Ritual was the first one that I read, and I was done with it after 3 days. I'd finished reading that because I couldn't put it down. So we'll go back to it. So aspiring painter Alden Oakes is invited to join a mysterious art commune in Arkham, the new colony. When celebrated Spanish surrealist Juan Hugo Balthazar visits the colony, Alden and the other artists quickly fall under his charismatic spell. Balthazar throws a string of decadent parties for Arkham's social elite, conjuring arcane illusions which blur the boundaries between nightmare and reality. Only slowly does Alden come to suspect that Balthazar's mock rituals are intended to break through those walls and free what lies beyond. Alden must act, but it might already be too late to save himself, let alone Arkham. So I discovered this one, and I also discovered that it is one of a few books that have been based on the game series of Arkham Horror. And people tell me the game series is great. The novels certainly are. So this one, I couldn't put it down. I was following Alden because it's written in first person. I was following Alden's journey and I wanted to solve it just as much as he did. It's something that is, it was coined detective fever in the Moonstone. And you get detective fever while you're reading this. You want to know, who is this Balthazar guy? Is he actually a magician? Is he actually just a surrealist painter? Is he part of the occult? what are all these weird happenings? Why are there people in robes here? What's this weird language that they're all saying? Because every time Alden challenges it or says, no, I saw this, everyone around him just denies it and says, I didn't hear anything, or, oh, you just imagine it, you're just tired. Alden seems to lose consciousness whenever he's around these people, and it makes you as the reader stop and think, what am I... No. Did it happen? Did he hallucinate? Has he imagined this? Or are people really doing this? I can't tell. And some of the scenes, a lot happens, and you question yourself just as much as Alden does. You think, did that happen? Is this really happening? But it's a really good read, and if you're looking for a Lovecraftian terror mystery, then you should pick up this book. So that was The Last Ritual by S.A. Sidor. And straight after that, I read At Midnight, I Will Steal Your Soul. So I wanted to talk about this one for a few reasons. It's what's labelled a quick read, and I saw a series of these in the library and I thought, what a great idea. So not only are they a quick and satisfying read if you just want a quick read, but also for those of us who maybe haven't read fiction for a while, potentially there's a bit of a barrier with fiction because of dyslexia. These quick reads are really satisfying. So I just read it in a morning. But what I loved about this is the accessibility. So if you know anyone who doesn't read or hasn't read fiction for a long time or doesn't have much confidence when it comes to reading fiction, and let's face it, there's nothing more patronising than someone who can't read that well is an adult and people suggest children's books. Nothing wrong with children's books, but sometimes people want to read an adult book. And I think these quick reads are fantastic for that. I wish I'd have known about them back when I was teaching in a college and we taught adults functional skills English. And one of the criticisms that Ofsted had of the adult group reading that we did was that the books chosen, the reading age was about 11 plus. And although the students enjoyed the stories and it helped them build confidence with reading, that's what we were criticised for. And I just thought, well, if these quick reads had been around, then what would Ofsted have had to say about that? And I just thought they were wonderful because there's so many people who aren't confident either reading by themselves or reading with others, and these quick reads, they're not bringing it down to children's book level. It's very much a story that an adult would read, and the way it's laid out, it's accessible. And also for that person who is just getting back into fiction, for example, or doesn't have much confidence with English as a language, this is a great little, milestone. And there's just so many books out there like this, quick reads they're called, and libraries have them, or you can buy them as well. So quick reads, this is by Both Publishing, and I just thought it was fantastic. And I thought, well, if we had adult learners, if I was teaching adult learners, it would definitely be a book that I would recommend, especially for entry level, level 1 and level 2 functional skills, just to develop confidence and expand vocabulary. But I liked the way this was laid out. I thought, the author did a great job of getting the whole story in there in such a short amount of time, because they're only thin books, and I just didn't find it I suppose what's the word I'm looking for, not patronising. I found it very enjoyable. I just found it like I was reading a short story. But yeah, I wanted to shout from the rooftops about this one because it's just so accessible for people who want to get into fiction. And it's a good horror story. It's I think it's let's say, searching for a new creative outlet just for herself, Linda joins Dr. Sampson's choir at the local psychiatric hospital. As she approaches the gates of the gothic monstrosity on a rain-lashed evening, she tells herself it's just an imagination setting her on edge, right? She keeps telling herself that until she finds she's a prisoner. Something doesn't want her to leave. I also loved that this was set in Wales. So it was a little bit Welsh hospital in an isolated part of Wales, and I loved that as well. Little Gothic Victorian hospital just in the middle of Wales. And it's atmospheric. It's one of those that makes you think, oh, is she imagining this? What's everyone else seeing? What's everyone else, have they got something to do with this or not? Is it supernatural? Is it someone who's just pulling strings? What is happening? And it had a satisfying, clean ending as well. And quick read. I've gone on about it. It's a quick read. I can't say any more than that. It was really good. So that was At Midnight I Will Steal Your Soul. So that's done. Get that on that pile. I can't believe I was done with these books after 3 days. My brain must just be hungry this month. Northanger Abbey. So I showed you in the video not last week, the week before, I showed you in the video that I had this massive collection of Jane Austen novels because I couldn't get a copy of Northanger Abbey just on its own. Anyway, I'm about halfway through Northanger Abbey in the big chunky book, and I find this on the bookshelf. I can't explain myself. I don't know. I think I must have either forgotten I'd had it, thought I'd sold it, I don't know. But I found it on the bookshelf and I thought, okay, that's much easier to carry around. I have a lot to say about Northanger Abbey. So, I loved that it was dripping with sarcasm. I loved that Catherine is not a straightforward, flawless heroine. And I loved that Jane Austen was making a comment about the Gothic novels around at the time. So the Mysteries of Udolpho are mentioned quite a few times because the young ladies are reading these books. And Catherine has started off not very interested in books, but then she soon has an interest because she realises, oh, it's something to talk about. Not just when making friends, but also when you're trying to find a partner, it's something to talk about with the boys. And I just thought it was really funny. Not like laugh out loud, bursting at the seams funny, but I really enjoyed the subtle comments, and I really liked John Thorpe, who just takes the mick out of his sisters. You know, he's a bit crude. I was surprised by John Thorpe's character development, but I thought he was a great character. And I think I remember the TV drama. It was the guy from Peep Show was in it, and I thought that was really fitting. Robert Webb. That was really fitting to cast him as John Thorpe because John Thorpe is a bit ridiculous. But no, I enjoyed that. And Catherine, oh, there were so many times that reading that I just thought, Catherine, what are you doing? But at the same time, she's 17 and she is going into dealing with high society, what all the young ladies and gentlemen get up to. She's from a more, I wouldn't say humble life because she's educated, but you know, as with the children of the clergy, they'd be educated but wouldn't necessarily have the money for that kind of socialisation and going to balls and meeting gentlemen, and also getting a good marriage match wasn't really an option for girls and boys who grew up as children of clergymen. But luckily she has friends in high places, so she heads off to Bath with the Allens, who are family friends and I think landowners from where she lives. So I liked the back synopsis for this one. Light and rippling as it is, Northanger Abbey is also the judgment of an incisive critic upon the popular fiction of her day. Northanger Abbey, generally agreed to be Jane Austen's earliest major work, grew out of her distaste for the absurdities of the novels of her time, and in particular for the conventions of the Gothic novels, with their impossibly perfect heroines and unnatural events. At Northanger Abbey, Jane Austen's charmingly imperfect heroine, Catherine Morland, meets all the trappings of Gothic horror and imagines the worst. Fortunately, she has at hand her own fundamental good sense and the irresistible but unsentimental hero, Henry Tilney. Disaster does eventually strike in the real world as distinct from the romantic one in her imagination, but without spoiling for too long the gay, good-humoured atmosphere of this most delightful of books. I really liked Henry Tilney. Now, not in the same way that we all like Mr. Darcy. I liked Henry Tilney because he thought Catherine was ridiculous and went with it. Just thought, oh, you're cute. And time again, he gives Catherine a chance to not be so ridiculous. I think he actually says to her at one point, you know, do you not think you're getting a bit carried away? He gives her all these opportunities to sort herself out, because I was reading it thinking, Catherine, what are you doing? Don't do that. Don't say that. No, Catherine, please. No. Oh my God, no. So yeah, if you want to read something where the heroine is cringe, then read Northanger Abbey. I was happy for her, but a lot of the time I did think, girl, what are you doing? So as for that, I also picked up Lady Susan. I couldn't help but feel that Lady Susan, I mean, it seemed that after Jane Austen's death, they just published everything that she wrote. I don't know, it just felt a bit unfinished. I liked the epistolary novel style of it, and it was a quick read, and she's just a menace. Lady Susan is a menace. I won't reveal any more of that, but she basically wants to arrange an advantageous marriage for herself now that she's a widow, but at the same time she's trying to arrange a marriage for her daughter, which is not as advantageous as hers is. And she's a menace. Just yeah, just read it, and we all have people like that who we've heard about, or people in our lives like Lady Susan. So yeah, that was good. Northanger Abbey, good. And immediately I needed to find something else to read, because after 1 week I'd ploughed through those books. I then decided, oh, I'll go and have a look on the Kindle, because the kids have also borrowed books from the library, and I don't want to be like, oh, we're going back a week early because I'm done. So I went to my Kindle and had a look at what's just sitting there in the library waiting, and I found Terror at Lake Eucha. And Terror at Lake Eucha by Jean Marie Bauhaus is a horror story, and I absolutely loved it. And I'll tell you why. So Terror at Lake Eucha, something lingers in the woods of Lake Eucha, something that refuses to be forgotten. A year following her brother's disappearance, Melanie Fisher is determined to get answers. Her quest takes her to the site of an abandoned museum park where she finds a lost video camera containing evidence that her brother was losing his mind. She begins to question her own sanity when memories surface of childhood visits to the lakeside amusement park, and Melanie wants to find her brother. She's so adamant that he's alive and he needs help. Her boyfriend Shane is reluctant and thinks, there's nothing there, it's abandoned, you know. This amusement park at the lake, nobody's been there for years, but she finds the video and it looks like her brother is fine. So they go on this hunt to find her brother. And Terror at Lake Eucha I thought was ultimate horror, because one of my worst nightmares is being stuck somewhere and there's no exit, there's no escape, you can't get out of there. If you've ever had those nightmares where the doors don't lead to anywhere, or there's no view. You can't escape. And I also felt that Terror at Lake Eucha, for me, was symbolic of toxic nostalgia, and how you remember something isn't necessarily how it was. So same for a childhood memory, you would think, oh, that was really great, this was huge, but then as you grow up you realise, oh well, it's not that spectacular, it was just really impressive because I was a child. But I really felt that it themed around toxic nostalgia and the dangers of going back to places where you probably shouldn't. I just thought it was brilliant, and it was something that I read before bed. Yeah, I was just glad that I wasn't going near any theme parks. But yeah, I really liked it. And if you're a fan of atmospheric horror and Lovecraft, then you would like this story. It's a short story and it's available online. I bought mine on Amazon for Kindle, and that is Terror at Lake Eucha by Jean Marie Bauhaus. Highly recommend it. So I read that, Terror at Lake Eucha, and then immediately fell into Water for Elephants. Because the next Muldoon mystery that I'm writing is set in the circus. And I thought, oh, I remember Water for Elephants being about the circus, albeit a 1930s circus. But I just felt I would like to go back and kind of get a feel for what the circus is like, for the performers, for the workers, because I already had the idea of, you know, the sawdust and the animals and the different acts. But I really felt that Sidor Gruen could take me back and help me imagine it better. And it was a reread, because the first time I read that book must have been 2008, 2009. So it was nice to go back, because I'd forgotten most of it, in all honesty. Not because it was a bad book, it's a very good book. But I had to go back and reread, and it was a pleasant, not surprise, but it was a pleasant going over things that I'd forgotten from last time. So Water for Elephants, it's a nice story, ultimately, and it starts off with Jacob Jankowski, who is in his 90s now. He's in an old people's home, and he's frustrated with the limitations, he's frustrated with the food, he's frustrated with the way the staff treat him, he's frustrated with the way his family kind of forget whose turn it is to come and see him at the weekend. He's like, you know, can't be bothered. And a circus pulls up in town, and he really wants to go. Only when one old guy says, oh, I used to be in the circus, and has all these ladies around him, Jacob calls him out and says, no, you didn't, because he says, oh, I did. I used to carry water for elephants. And Jacob's like, no, you absolutely did not. That is not a job. And then we start to relive Jacob's memory of what it was like to join the circus in the Great Depression in the 1930s, or late 20s, early 1930s. I just thought it was a nice story, and I did find that on Goodreads somebody commented saying, oh, I just couldn't get into it, it was too melodramatic, because I suppose a lot does happen to people and the animals, and the journey can be quite treacherous and dangerous and so on. But yeah, they were like, oh, it's very melodramatic, and I just refused to believe that this would happen and this would happen, and I thought, well, yeah, I mean, a lot happens and it is a little bit melodramatic, but the story is about Jacob and Jacob's journey, and we learn in the story that the journey's not over. So it's nice to go through that with Jacob and relive all the good times, all the bad times, and you know, I won't ruin the ending, but we follow Jacob, and it's about Jacob's journey like the other characters, and can, you know, they come and go, but I just thought it was a lovely story, and at the end, you know, I finished the book and I just felt happy, ultimately. So yeah, Water for Elephants it's a nice read, ultimately. So yeah, Water for Elephants. What else have I read? Terror like Eucha, quick reads, Northanger Abbey, Last Ritual. Okay, so that was all those titles in 11 days, and I just can't start reading. So what I am currently reading, I'm reading the Bloodlines series by Emily Hurricane, and that's really interesting because it's supernatural, bit of mystery, post-apocalyptic. It's quite interesting. A girl who discovers, you know, as her town is dying, and her parents, you know, her mother reveals a secret to her on her deathbed, and then she has to basically rediscover who or what she is. So I'm reading that. I'm enjoying that. I also couldn't resist Angela Carter's Night at the Circus. I haven't read that yet. That's next in the pile. Because it's about circus and it's Angela Carter, and I quite like Angela Carter. I've read loads of her short stories. I've read the Beginning of New Eve, I think it's called. I read that at university. The Magic Toy Shop as well, and all their fairy tale retellings. I'm also currently reading Silence of the Lambs. I just can't resist a second-hand book, and sure enough, 4 chapters in, very good. So a psychotic, well, we know this, we've seen the film, but either way, at large, a psychotic serial killer who flays the bodies of his victims, locked away, a homicidal genius in an asylum for the criminally insane, the go-between, a young FBI trainee who must deal with one to stop the other. It's great. 4 chapters in, it's great. It's probably going to cause me a lot of late nights, but oh well. Life's for living. So yeah, that's where we are. That's what I've read. This is what I'm currently reading. So it looks like by the time it's been 3 weeks, I'll have read 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll have read at least 4 novels. It can be done. Yeah, I'm not skimming. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm reading instead of scrolling, and it hasn't impacted me that much. I think, you know, yes, the news is there to know about things, but you don't have to be with it all the time. And I don't know, it's like being back at university again, just reading. I didn't read for pleasure for a couple of years after uni, because when you do English Lit, you you read a lot over a short period of time. So for a while, reading was a bit difficult, because I just thought, I can't face it. So I took a couple of years out, but I have been reading steadily over the last couple of years. But at the moment, I'm just on a book binge, and why not? Why not? What harm will it do? So yeah, that's what I'm reading at the moment, and that's everything I've read. If you've read any of those books, drop a comment, let me know what you thought of it. If you've read any that are on my to be read list, or that I'm currently reading, let me know. Let me know what you've been reading, what you think, what you're going to read next. I'd love to know. So that's it for this week's vlog. I'll be back again in 2 weeks with a lot more to talk about when it comes to the books I've read. And yeah, so have a good weekend.